Welcome back to the Smite Console League. Finch here. I've got Taco with me as well as we turn our attention towards North America. Just saw an exciting EU set. This one's going to be Evelate going up against the other Fable. This is FableGG, FableNA, whatever you want to call it. Right?
Yeah, always keep in mind that Fable does, in fact, have two separate teams. One is European, and we unfortunately just saw them take a little bit of a spill in that other region, but maybe their NA team can have a different outcome.
Yeah, and I'm hoping so. You know, it looks like they got a bit of a new look here for this Fable roster. We'll get to see how well that does. They're going up against Evelate, which is a tough team in its own right, though, with tons of talent on it. I mean, Zachsy is a name you should know if you've been following along. That should be in the hunter role for them. I mean, they've got a ton of talent on both sides. So, I mean, I don't even want to wait, Taco. Let's just go ahead and get into those picks and bans, see what it is they're going to be prioritizing, and get started with the game one between these two teams.
Can't blame you for wanting to jump right in, Finch, because this is definitely going to be one of those sets that you have to keep an eye out for if you're trying to keep up with who are the top teams right now in North America, because there is a lot of competition between numerous I wanted to say companies for a second, but they're organizations and all that good stuff. But no, seriously though, it is pretty insane though when you think about, because I think with that recent addition too of a lot of those console guys going to the SML and then coming back now to the console side of things really caused for a lot of shifts, and those are clearly reflected in Elevate's and Fable's rosters now.
Yeah, you're right. It's so crowded, isn't it, in North America? It feels like all the teams have such a legitimate claim to being in those top two spots. So that's what this league is for. They try and find who can get those little edges, who can get a couple more wins than someone else and make it up to the tippity top. And this is going to be important for finding that. As Evelate our first pick, they're going to ban the Daji and the Chang'an. Chang'an makes some sense. We don't see as much Daji anymore.
We don't see too many Daji bans, but this kind of leads me to believe that Evelate could potentially be looking for a Thoth pickup. I know that a lot of teams don't like the availability of Daji against the Thoth because it forces you to play a little bit more passive, and typically you want to be trying to initiate and abuse some of that extended range.
She's one of the ones that can really punish you if you're not perfect with your evade and punishes, right? And if you don't have beads up, because he doesn't have the CC Minol, Daji can very easily like punish him on that. So I get it. It's not a big matchup, but that's for another day. Right now, though, we've got the Guan Yu right into the Odin and the Achilles. So yeah, Guan Yu has heals, but Odin kind of shuts those down. Achilles is very good with that execute. This is a good draft so far from Fable.
But it's the same exact way if you look at Elevate's top three. Janus, Athena, Guan Yu, probably three of the most contested gods right now for Smite, period, in Season 5. And I think that there's a lot of survivability, great sustain here already being provided for Elevate. I love the initiation and disengage factors that a Janus can provide. And I think Athena to a certain extent as well, because the damage mitigation off that Defender of Olympus. But more importantly, it's the CC, the control. I'm looking at Fable's composition in comparison to Elevates. I don't see too much control just yet for Fable. Hopefully looking to pick it up in the 4th and 5th pick selections. Maybe a get ban potentially also, just to remove some of those likelihoods for Elevate to worry about in terms of being counter ganked against.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, at this point, there's really not a lot of room for Fable to put any more control into this draft, right? Though, I mean, it's kind of tough. But I think that you're right. You talked about how Elevate drafted really strong and responded to the Odin Achilles, but then Fable's like, well, now we've got Aphrodite and the Odin on the same side. It's strong.
You feel like that's a lot of control, though, for Fable?
No, I'm saying there's no more room because of the spots that they've already taken up. Yeah, I mean...
There's a lot of damage, though.
There is plenty of damage, yeah.
I think that'll be the key thing for Fable to really try and build off of. Normally when we see the Odin pickups, sure, it can be a strong god choice against like a Guan Yu, Janus, Athena, but we don't necessarily always see the follow-up factors that can be crucial in terms of being able to execute off of that range.
That's right. Saying that you're stuck in this circle might not really matter if there's no big punish for being in that circle in the first place. So that's what Fable are trying to get here with this Thoth pickup, and it turns out it was actually Fable that were looking for that with the Daji ban, so that could have potentially been a good jungler for them. But they've got the Susano, who's very good at punishing in his own right.
I like the Susano. I love the Elevator fully committing to this heavy mobility kind of factors. I think that their mobility is going to be one of the main things Fable has to really keep an eye out for, especially looking towards that Aphrodite and Artemis. Not necessarily the most mobile gods in the game, but they do have their own ways of staying relevant throughout the match.
And you talked about some control. Well, Artemis can kind of bring that with the boar, right? It's very disruptive in the middle of a team fight to have that boar kind of ping-ponging around between different gods, but we are here in Game 1 between Fable and Elevate. Those picks are all in their respective roles. It's going to be Ryan Jarman taking the Aphrodite over to the solo lane and trusting Mollusk to play this Odin in the jungle so he can have that cage up and affect as many different spots on the map as possible.
Ryan Jarman doing his best e-girl impression right now with the Aphrodite representation. And I gotta say, it's a little bit surprising to still see the Aphrodite commitment despite the fact that, you know, Nexamiss is on the Guan Yu, he's really just looking for some of that early bully potential. I think that's going to be something that Jarman should be careful of. Sure, they have Mollusk on the Odin, but you can never really consider yourself too safe.
Not at all. Not if DoctorL spent a lot of time over here in this solo lane and kind of tries to create problems for Ryan Jarman. The thing is, they've got a lot of the picks that are best up against the Aphrodite. Yes, Susano is very good at like controlling, and that can cause some problems with the Aphrodite, but as long as he's eventually able to make it to the late game, I mean, Fable up here, like they're in a good spot. They'll have an Artemis, they'll have a Thoth to go along with that. The Odin will lock people down. If they can make it, and that's a big if, I mean, they're in a good spot. And
for anyone who's wondering, that reference that Finch and I had earlier about the console players who went over to the Smite Minor League and then came back, well, that's going to be Mollusk, Crimson, Inbowned, and Fatal Ghost. Like, those guys were all participating on the PC side of things, or Fatal Ghost, who was half Ghost on PC at least, and they were the ones who gave Anxiety Onset their first set win, and then moved back over to console. So it's not that they couldn't compete, because I think the level of competition was certainly there. They just wanted to come back into the mix of the console side.
Yeah, I think we saw Bobby, or Inbound rather, tweet out, you know, that they only had like 2 days to scrim before that Anxiety Onset set, and they were still very competitive. So I don't think this is so much them feeling like they couldn't compete so much as maybe console, just where they felt more comfortable. And they're able to have the team they want. Ryan Jarman, also a veteran here on the console scene. They're going to be able to have him in the solo lane with them and give him that strong presence. And really, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. I mean, if you're other console teams, you got to be worried about this Fable squad.
In terms of name power alone, I think that there's a lot of members from this Fable roster, if not arguably every single one of them, that is considered like top tier position at their specific role.
Crimson Inbound won their chance.
So it's hard to say that. I mean, when you're going against two of the former world champs, is that still going to be as relevant here in Season 5, though, with the new map, with the new metas?
That's true.
Summer Split has been a lot different. I mean, we can already see some of the influences in terms of healing and healers in general right now being played way more often.
That's true, Taco. You're right. I mean, things are a lot different here in Season 5. And then the question you ask is how well these teams responded, as Crimson can say goodbye to about half his HP bar there, as he very much has to fall back from this Janus damage. But how well have we seen FableGG adapt? And we've seen Inbound adapt, not just with the meta, but whether he's on PC or console, he does not seem to miss a beat. So I don't think we got to worry too much about this FableGG squad dropping off.
Inbound feels like one of the most flexible support players in the console league right now. And
in our scene, right? Who's done as much swapping around as Inbound has?
He's going with the Achilles support. So if that doesn't scream, I have a certain level of confidence about my play, I don't know what will, because he just is able to sway his playstyle so often, speaking of which, could be in a lot of trouble here. Needs to be on the lookout for some of the Xbalanque. Bola is going to go forward with the Rising Jaguar, and Zachsy could potentially find first blood.
Don't get castered cursed here, as now Zachsy is the one that has to beads and try and find a way out of here. Fatal Ghost wanted to move in. Inbound wants this. He's feeling like he has a chance to try and take down this kill onto the Xbalanque early. Jumps in, but gets taunted back. Great control from IAmTheHamster. First blood goes the way of Elevate, as Inbound does end up falling.
The tunnel vision, though. You really thought he was going to have it with the Achilles damage, but that burst couldn't connect. IAmTheHamster so close behind, having used that taunt earlier on. You've got to keep track of those sort of cooldowns. Those aren't the kind of mistakes you want to be making that early against the Shabal.
Just what we're talking about. Singing Bobby's praises, of course, right? Of course.
Well, it's just typical Bobby,
that
isn't it? Like, anytime someone is saying something really good about him, he's just got to prove you wrong for a moment. I mean, I still don't think that it takes away from what we're saying, and I know that we're just joking with each other, but I do want to clarify that for you guys back at home here who are tuned in for this matchup against Elevate and Fable.
But you hinted at it. That's not ideal, right? You don't want to be giving that first blood over to the Xbalanque. He's not the one that got it. Hamster actually gets that last hit, which is a little bit better if you're Fable. But I mean, I've also heard the argument that given that support, a little bit of extra love towards the beginning can be pretty strong in its own right.
I think what's mostly problematic about that, though, is you're running the Achilles support, and sure, you want to be aggressive, but you don't want to let the pick play you. There, I think Bobby was just letting Achilles pick get a little bit too far ahead of himself, kind of just running before he can walk sort of deal, and coming up short. If he trades out there and gets the first blood, yeah, I guess you can kind of overlook it because you're still technically accomplishing what you want to do on that warrior support in terms of controlling the laning phase. But to come up completely devoid of anything, that's just going to put Inbound in a bit of an awkward position because he's still sitting at level 4. IAmTheHamster has that Defender of Olympus available now and could look to rotate at any given moment.
And Fatal Ghost did not really back him up on that one either. Not to say Fatal Ghost made a mistake. I think that Inbound just kind of was like, no, I got this. Fatal Ghost is like giving him some question marks. They're like, I don't know. And we end up seeing how it works out. Still, though, they're very even with Zachsy. They're still not too far behind this duo lane, so it's not all doom and gloom. As we turn our attention towards the solo lane, that's the matchup we've been talking about early on. This Aphrodite, how well is he going to pair up against the Guan Yu? Nexamiss is going right into boots right from the start. Wants to be doing as much bullying as possible onto this Aphrodite.
I like this, though, because even if you rush the early Pesty, you're still not going to have a whole lot of kill potential on the Guan Yu. Kind of lacks some of that sticking factor, because Aphrodite, she's just going to back off and then run right into her tower. And even as a Guan Yu, you still don't want to dive super early on. Nexamiss just doesn't have the protections available right now that could guarantee his safety after diving.
Does have that Warrior's Blessing finish, so getting a little bit of help there, but you're right, not really going to go too all in on the protections route early on in this match, so with those Warrior tapping, because sometimes you see them go into more defensive items, or like you mentioned, Pestilence, a great option in the Aphrodite, but he's got to also consider he's building a little bit less efficiently than your normal Warriors, because you usually get to go into the physical solo and physical jungle, but he's got a magical opponent, and then Odin coming in doing physical damage, so he's got to really be mindful of where he goes with this next item.
This could be our first point of contention, but cancel that because Commando Snipes is going to destroy those right mid hard piece before Crimson
he's
or Mollusk.
Yeah?
Pretty much, yeah, with the Unstable Vortex at that. But another thing, too, I wanted to bring up before we left off on the topic is Ryan Jarman with a bit of an interesting build. Speaking of which, actually, it's Mollusk looking to go in first, going to eat that Unstable Vortex from Commando. And at least for right now, DoctorL going to be able to get out of danger.
You were right about the fight over Harpies, just on the wrong side. Through space and time, smacks Crimson in the mouth. He has to retreat, evade, and punish. Gets him far away, but Commando Sniped is not done. Portal, an Unstable Vortex doesn't land, and Crimson is going to be able to make it out A-OK.
Looking at counter collapse of Janus usually won't take you very far. There's no one from Fable that can really afford to waste their time chasing Commando all around the map. He had that through space and time. Portal just sitting there waiting for him to take back through it, and I think if anything, Crimson's probably a little lucky that the Unstable Vortex, I'm pretty sure it was on cooldown prior to his dash.
Fortunate that he didn't end up getting caught out there. It was 2-for-1 ultimate-wise. Looks like Zachsy and Commando Snipes both dropped theirs, while only Mollusk dropped his, dropped down that cage. Really, though, no opportunity for FableGG to really capitalize. Only big buff that's coming up is red buff, and Elevate haven't really had a whole lot of pressure enough to go look for the invade, so it shouldn't be too big a deal here.
It's pretty clear, though, that both of these teams have a decent amount of respect for each other. We don't really see too many overcommits outside of that earlier spill from Inbound, and ever since then, I think that Fable have definitely backed off to an extent in that there's really only so much Crimson and Mollusk could do. I think right now is just a super important period for Mollusk to just try and hyper farm.
There is going to be some contention in the jungle for Elevate. After all, Inbound going to be the target. Typhoon is charged up, and Mollusk dunks onto DoctorL. Inbound able to find IAmTheHamster. Now it's just Zachsy alone in a 1v3 inside the cage, so he cannot chase Inbound. Fatal Ghost finds that shot. 3 quick kills for Fable. Get them off to a great start.
I think all 3 of those might have even happened inside of that Odin ring, so that could potentially be funneling into Mollusk's passive even heavier, and bit of a blow, too, when you think about it.
That looked good for them because it was like the pull into the Typhoon from Susano. I really thought they had a good chance at a strong team fight there, but you cannot underestimate the Boar's impact in that fight, and they just kind of got dunked on once Mollusk comes in with the Odin cage as well. Like, they turned that one around.
The Darkest Night gave them a false sense of confidence, I think, because Elevate were fully grouped up, definitely planning to go in there from the very start of it all, and I just don't think that they had any anticipation whatsoever of Mollusk being right around the corner to help out.
That means Oracles are going to go the way of Fable as well. Defender of Olympus being channeled. They're going to aggress on the Crimson here in the jungle. Sprint into the taunt. DoctorL's here. He has to use auto attacks, though. No cooldowns available. Undying Love keeps him alive, but only for the moment. Now Jarman could be in a little bit of trouble. Does have the kiss on a DoctorL, but gets pulled right back into the Talu Assault through space and time. Does not land, but Unstable Vortex does. Has the heals, has the back off, but it feels like only a matter of time. And Nexamiss finds it with the ultimate.
Ryan Jarman survived for way too long right there, and that's only 9 minutes in around for Aphrodite.
And it's only going to get harder, right?
And it's only going to get even worse. That's the big thing. Elevate, you have to see this heavy priority towards anti-heal. Love that Nexamiss already opted for the Pesty. That was an immediate second buy. It seems as though DoctorL could probably have the similar intentions in terms of anti-heal pickups, because this could either be a Jotuns or a Brawlers, and I almost bet that it's a Brawlers just because of what happened at that speed buff invade.
Just want to make sure there's no chance for Jarman to, or not no chance, but as little chance possible for Ryan Jarman and this Aphrodite to be able to heal through these fights. But that's what it's going to be like. I mean, Crimson had a chance to get the ultimate off. I think it just didn't quite have the impact they wanted because of the Undying Love coming in. I mean, that's what Aphrodite can do. We're seeing glimpses of it. Elevate have got to step on the gas.
Well, Inbound gonna get taunted in, needs some of that poison dart damage. Also taking a decent amount from these auto attacks alone. Zachsy just doing his best to stack up that passive as quickly as possible and doing a pretty damn good job at it.
It is gonna be that Brawler's beat stick as Commando snipes. Gets a little bit of payback. Final Judgment, just barely, not enough snipes. Buddy, you gotta thank somebody somewhere for being able to survive through that one. That was just barely not enough.
Crimson's probably so mad he didn't charge. Half a second more of a charge, and he gets that every time.
He had red buff too. I mean, and pen boots. I mean, I don't know if Crimson could have done much more, but now they are going to turn their attention towards the Gold Fury with Commando Snipes forced back. He has through space and time though, so we can join up with the team quickly. Taunt onto Inbound, but Mollusk is there to drop the cage. And IAmTheHamster now is locked in. Execute comes in from Inbound, but he's going to end up dying to the unstable vortex in return.
Perfect punish by Commando Snipes, and it might not be over just yet. Maul's going to get slowed here. Shield will eat that unstable vortex, but DoctorL has that speed buff right around him with the blink outplay.
So close. DoctorL blinks in, and Mollusk on reaction blinks out of there, so he does not get pulled. It ends up being a 1-for-1 trade. We saw Inbound and IAmTheHamster, both supports go down. Gold Fury, though, started by Fable, and they have to drop it because of the response from Elevate.
Fable, I think, just wanted to see what they could get. I think that they were all in position for setting up an ambush here. I hate going for the VGS directly, but sometimes it's just like that. And I think that right now, Elevate are making the right call, looking for these invades. Got to be careful, though. Don't want to stay for too long.
Mollusk is here to help try and defend, but Nexamiss is up onto the horse looking for the stun. Undying Love lets him get through that and the taunt, but the stun lands anyway. They're back underneath the Tier 2 tower. They should be safe. Evade and Punish doesn't quite make it through the glyph, so it doesn't get the extra range, and Elevate are able to escape.
It's mostly DoctorL that you had to be concerned about there. He's the one who's lowest on mana and could potentially end up falling if they're not careful. Inbound started to make the rotation too. He's definitely spotted out that the blue buff is available, and just like that, Mollusk popping the shield, looking for the invade.
Now it is actually Nexamiss who's the one who's going to be without the blue buff after trying to steal away from Ryan Jarman. And Mollusk isn't done, jumping over the wall aggressively, coming to interrupt the back out of IAmTheHamster, stunned. Now he's trapped inside the cage. Ryan Jarman is here to provide some extra damage. Final Judgment, curiously off the mark, but they end up getting the kill either way.
Crimson, we're just not going to talk about it. No one saw that.
You know, sometimes you get that play on Commander Snipes in mid lane where you frag, and sometimes you get that play. So, you know, you get both. It's okay.
I think it's only more funny because they body blocked into the corner so perfectly, and Crimson is legitimately god tier with a Thoth for console. He is insane. So to see him make that kind of a miss, it's just something you have to have a little bit of a giggle at. Although I'm sure that's not something we can expect to see repeated throughout the duration of this match. I think that was Elevate's one-time get-out-of-jail-free card.
And they didn't even get out of jail. In all honesty, he missed it, but they killed him anyway, so it really was no harm, no foul on that one.
It's asserting dominance.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Letting you know we don't even need this to kill you.
We don't even need Final Judgment.
I just want you to know I have it.
Well, the warning shot, but then you went through with it anyway. I suppose is the call there, but they do pick up that kill. They had a little bit of an advantage now. Gold Fury is up. Red buff spawning for Elevate as well if they want to try and come grab this one, but instead, Nexamiss is into the jungle of Fable. Also, Zachsy's in a whole lot of trouble. Is Inbound right here with him. Has to drop the ultimate. Or maybe didn't have to, but drops it either way, and that does deter Fable for now.
I think it's fair to drop that Darkest Night there, because if he doesn't, you run the risk of Inbound full diving you, and as long as he has Fatal Strike available, you're never really safe. Speaking of which, IAmTheHamster, we've seen this one time too many already, trying to get the ultimate off, but just won't be possible. Bird Bomb gonna get destroyed against Hamster.
2-0-4 for the junglers. Crimson finds DoctorL in mid lane. Unstable Vortex allows him to return the favor. 2-for-1 if you count the kill on the Hamster. And here's Inbound. This is why you were right to use Darkest of Night, Zachsy, because Inbound's been playing like that all game. He's certainly unafraid.
He's 4 levels down, too, against Commando Snipes and still willing to venture into the T1, take a tower shot just for some possible poke opportunities.
My man's unafraid. That is the only way that I can describe it. But the damage certainly is starting to come out from everyone. But Mollusk now 2-0-4 on this Odin pick, and it's only going to get worse for Evelate right now because they're going to have to continually deal with this Aphrodite when she starts to rotate in. Mollusk has been locking in IAmTheHamster, doesn't have an escape path. Commando Snipes doesn't if you're away from the walls. Neither really does DoctorL. I mean, they have a good chance to try and cause some problems for everyone on this Elevate roster, and it's already a great start for this Odin.
Odin feels like one of those gods where if you're able to build up any lead whatsoever, you're practically unstoppable for the first 25 minutes. And I think that Mollusk is definitely in a position right now to have that sort of snowball potential with Fable, because the cage is just so excellent. We have seen time and time again Athena be a pesky pick to try and deal with, because you just have those non-stop taunts flying every which way, whether it's your front line or your back line, doesn't really matter. It's just the heavy control that feels so inescapable at times. But the ring stops all of that, whether you want to isolate the Athena specifically, which we've seen happen to IAmTheHamster at least 4 times now, which is why it's all 4 of his deaths.
And Mollusk, I mean, he's really the guy that you want on an Odin who's ahead, because even if he's Odin from behind, Mollusk is going to play almost ludicrously aggressive. And now is a situation where he gets rewarded for that. I want my Odin, when he's level 13 and 2-0-4, to be going in and doing absurd damage with the shield jump combinations, to be looking for anybody who maybe has their movement ability down or beads down or anything like that. Try and find those punishes, and you can count on Mollusk to do that.
I don't want to necessarily call it a race against the clock, but Fable's composition does feel a little bit that way.
Sure.
Simply because, sure, you had the Aphrodite for the late game, but you're running double warriors as your sole purpose for frontline, pretty much. Inbound and Mollusk are going to be the main setup factors here. Ryan and Jarman is just going to be there to ensure that everybody stays alive and maybe throw out some of that back-off damage being attached to Crimson, Fatal Ghost, or even Mollusk. But you can't afford to let your warriors slip behind. Whether it's Mollusk or Inbound, it doesn't matter. They have to stay relevant during these laning phases, during the transitions into the team fights, at least for the mid-game.
Defender of Olympus is being considered through space and time, comes through, does not quite find the mark. Inbound, of course, is the furthest forward, has a little bit of help from Crimson using that glyph. Taunt comes out, so Inbound is getting controlled, but he's not slowing down, goes to the Fatal Strike, does not land. Typhoon now gonna knock him up, and there is follow-up damage in the form of DoctorL, but they have to retreat. They kept Zachsy away from that fight on the left side.
This could have been problematic for Inbound if it wasn't for Ryan Jarman's rotation. Now we're looking at Nexamiss, who's trying to do what he can in terms of control. Mollusk won't connect with that bird bomb, but it's still so much damage. Final Judgment just to take him out.
Crimson right there to make it a 5v4 as they take down the opposing solo laner Nexamiss. He is going to have to sit down for another 40 seconds. Gold Fury now being looked at by Fable. DoctorL is here. Hamster is here. They're right around the corner. Gold Fury at half HP, but they do not have through space and time, one of their best abilities to contest.
This is the perfect bait, however. Inbound sitting so low, 50% health, now down to 40. Everybody's still keeping their eyes on him, but Ryan Jarman's reset the link.
DoctorL's on the backside, but he's in a bad position to get collapsed on. The dunk coming in from Mollusk is more than enough. They take down the jungler and the solo laner. 2 for 0 so far for Fable, as Crimson is low and has to fall back. Gold Fury is still being looked at, though, by Fatal Ghost Taco.
There is an extra level of satisfaction when it comes to dunking on some kids on the Odin that Mollusk has got to be feeling.
Zachsy had the Aegis, he's okay through space and time, comes through, does not hit the Gold Fury, already targets Fable, are going to secure the first objective of the game for themselves and push that gold lead up to about 4,000 at this point, and they're going to get out with all their lives. A great extended engagement by the boys of Fable.
Even better still, Commando Snipes able to hold on to his relics, but the same can't be said for Zachsy, and Zachsy is someone who's already been getting a slightly tower dove over there in the duo lane. Gotta keep an eye out for Inbound, just trying to charge right in there. No Aegis means no way to avoid the Fatal Strike outside of your juke shoes.
But look what going Odin opens up for your team, Taco. You talked about Zachsy and how he's been getting punished. It might get even worse. Fatal Ghost going into crit early with that rage, because Nexamiss can't build Thorns, right? He has to build the Phantom to get out of the Odin cage, which frees up your Hunter to go extra aggressive. So they've had to worry about Crimson, Mollusk, and Ryan Jarman. Well, Fatal Ghost is going to be rotating in with those life RNG crits anytime now.
It's hard to avoid that, though, because you're right.
That's what I'm saying.
You are forced essentially into the Phantom anytime an Odin is available, unless you have a way to counter-initiate, which Elevate did not draft for. They went for the pick composition. That is what Athena, Janus, Susano always screams to me is heavy pick, heavy control within that pick, and then you get out. But we saw it a little bit towards the start of this match. We haven't seen it ever since Fable started specifically targeting out IAmTheHamster and Commando Snipes.
DoctorL does have the pull. Taunt comes out from IAmTheHamster in response, but the boar is a little bit better. Hamster is going to have to find a way to retreat after using Sprint. Zachsy's here with those autos, but with the rest of Fable coming in support, he might have to retreat. Blink from Mollusk, not quite going to be able to find IAmTheHamster, who does have Defender of Olympus if he wants to come right back in.
Zachsy had the right idea to back off there, though.
Yes.
You just cannot compete with an Artemis who rushed the Rage, and I think that Fatal Ghost certainly made the right choice in itemization here because, like we talked about, that Phantom on the Guan Yu, and I don't think that IAmTheHamster, another, or a Thorn's Relic would be in his best interest because he's already been target #1 for FableGG, and that, I think, would just make things worse and not really provide the level of survivability he wants anyway.
Tier 1 tower crumbles down. Stun lands on the Hamster, who just got back from being sent to base. Is stuck inside the cage, and they delete him early. Final Judgment used there at the end, but now a chance for Nexamiss to find a good stun. Zachsy is here for the follow-up, but DoctorL's low and has to fall back. Zachsy has Mollusk right in his face, and he puts him down. 2 for 0 for Fable yet again.
Disgusting levels of control, too, and you've got Crimson from so far away, tossing out non-stop stuns, non-stop poke damage and aggression. Fatal Ghost linked to Ryan Jarman, and even Ryan Jarman being linked to Inbound or Mollusk during these engagements. It's just so problematic trying to deal with either of these warriors.
Well, now the gold lead getting up to about 7,000, Taco, and you're right. It is going to be difficult to deal with those warriors when they have this kind of lead. It's 7,300 experience as well. There was a bit of concern they might not have quite enough control to be able to capitalize off the cage early enough, but they don't have to worry about it if they're able to get this big early lead, right? Now you're just doing enough damage to where you don't even need to lock them down. Mollusk has made IAmTheHamster the target early on. It is net for them a very big lead early, and now Evelate have got to find a way to try and play catch-up.
Can't really fault Evelate for this either, because it's not every day that you see a team looking to prioritize an Athena as a target.
Right. Athena, like, you might say Geb, yes, you might say Sylvanas, but Athena usually is able to get out of there. It has not been the case for IAmTheHamster. 2-5-2. Nexamiss could potentially be in trouble here in the solo lane. He is down to half health, but still has the ultimate available if he wants to cavalry charge out of here.
Well, with Inbound showing his face, it's bound to force Nexamiss to run away, and he's going to turn right back in because Mollusk looked to dove the T1 there for a second. Now that Fatal Ghost has joined the charge, I don't see anybody from Evelate really trying to stick around. They just don't have the same reinforcements because there's 2 members in the left-hand lane looking to return to T1.
That's right. Zachsy and DoctorL are going to be pushing in duo. They should have that vision in FableGG, and they're probably going to continue to force this fight on the right-hand side. In fact, a back coming out from Mollusk, who's going to go put a stop to this. So 4v3 happening in the solo side, and a 1v2 going to happen here in duo as Tier 2 tower does crumble down.
But it's just going to be an even trade-out. Neither side really profiting. No, I take that back. Fable does profit a little bit more because they took out the Fire Giant side towers, meaning that Evelate, if they look to defend Fire Giant, won't have the same sort of escape factors, which is why we see IAmTheHamster falling victim to Fable yet again.
It's just too much damage, and IAmTheHamster is going to be the target for it. And Mollusk able to find DoctorL as well. They continue to aggress as Mollusk wins the 1v2 double kill for the Odin up against Zachsy and DoctorL in the duo lane. They cannot hang.
Something tells me they both got stuck into a bird bomb.
That's all it could be, right?
They both had to have gotten trapped inside of a bird bomb from the ring. Mollusk also has an ideal build for taking on a 2v1 situation, and he has a heavy enough lead to where that also plays some pretty heavy factors against. But Glad Shield, Masamune, even the Void Shield, all really against physical protection, so hard for the members of Evelate to stay alive there.
That's going to net them a Phoenix on the right-hand side along with the Fire Giant, but I think you're right to give credit to the build there. That's almost exactly the fight he wants, whether he's reducing damage or getting extra protections because he's in a 2v1. Both of those benefit him very much in that fight, plus he's just ahead. He's just in the lead right now, so he's got a lot of factors helping him out, kind of puts the hurt on the DoctorL and Zachsy, and they're going to grab a Tier 2 tower as well. Only 2 Phoenixes now standing for Evelate as FableGG are starting to skyrocket into a tremendous lead.
There's only a handful of gods, I would say, that are truly feast or famine-esque, and Odin fits the bill to a T. If you are not on top of your 8 game with this pick, you're going to feel the repercussions of being behind as a warrior, because it'll be tickle damage if at best. And Mollusk's success on this Odin is definitely heavily attributed towards Fable just pushing the pressure early on in the lanes that they knew they could successfully acquire it.
Right.
I think that while it was a little bit silly that over-aggression from Inbound at like level 3 might not necessarily be what you're after, but afterwards, when the level 5 starts to play a little bit more of a part because you have some of those ultimates online, even with the strong disengage that Evelate has allotted for in their composition, they haven't really utilized it.
As we approach the 25-minute mark here, we're going to see if Evelate can make this defense happen. They've got the double Phantom now to try and deal with these cages coming out from Mollusk. They have the Emperor's armor for these defenses on the Phoenix as well. We're trying to increase the speed of those Phoenix shots. And they've got the Relic Dagger on Nexamiss so they can have the Phantom up even more often. They are doing everything they can to try and shut down this Odin and make it through these Phoenix sieges, if they can make it work.
The big thing for me is I don't feel as though Evelate really cut their losses at the start. When the lead was starting to transition a little bit more towards Fable's favor, we didn't see them sacrificing IAmTheHamster whenever he got picked off or was a little bit out of position and getting collapsed on. We saw them trying to fight back into it. Speaking of which, this could be another chance for Evelate to try and hold on to this game.
Well, let's see if they can get it done as they do find the taunt on the Inbound. He's been brought down to about half HP, but so has the Phoenix on the left-hand side. Meanwhile, Fire Minions already pouring into the base. Mollusk does trap in both Zachsy and Hamster. They do have the Phantom, but Zachsy still takes a bunch of damage anyway. They turn their attention back towards Phoenix. DoctorL in a whole heap of trouble. He's forced to jump away.
And he's still running away from everything. IAmTheHamster going to pop his sprint inside of his own base, but Fable don't have any interest in chasing them into the fountain. All they want to do is take out this mid-Phoenix.
That's going to be their attention. Inbound looking for the execute onto Commando Snipes. Not going to be able to find him inside the fountain, but all 3 Phoenixes are down now. He has to use Fatal Strike defensively. They do have Defender of Olympus, but it's just not enough. There's minions pouring in from every angle. FableGG look healthy like they've never been in a fight, and Crimson looks like he's trying to find a target for himself. It's Nexamiss on the left-hand side, and Inbound brings him down. Jarman finds Commando Snipe. Mollusk is unstoppable with 7 kills in a row. IAmTheHamster comes tumbling down as well. The Titan is going to be not too far behind. FableGG take game 1.
Absolutely brutal towards the end there if you're an Evelate fan, but Evelate still have another chance. It's not the end quite yet. That was a pretty dominating game 1 for Fable, and I think that was just a proper display of a double warrior composition with a healer that managed to get ahead early on.
That was their draft doing exactly what their draft does, right? It was Crimson doing a bajillion damage on the Thoth. It was the warrior in the jungle, Odin, getting off to a great start, and Aphrodite just keeping everybody healed up and topped off perfectly, and Evelate not quite having a response to all of it. I think drafting the Aphrodite and the Odin together were a great combo.
I think the Evelate also kind of just got a little bit too wrapped up in, like I was talking about, where they kept trying to fight into a lot of the aggression from Fable, thinking that they could maybe have some of the proper counter initiation, but it just never really panned out for them. They were constantly falling victim to at least 1 or 2 picks, and that just leads into objectives being taken away in favor of Fable. And once you get the first couple of Gold Furies and the Pyro, it's just so hard to stop that team from continuing that snowball factor, and Evelate definitely just falling victim to the compositions.
And I think what happened is they got baited a little bit. Early on, they were kind of hanging even with them. Remember the Gold Fury siege that actually gets started by Fable? That ends up being a 1-for-1 trade. So I think very early, Evelate are like, maybe we can hang with them in fights, but that becomes less and less true as the game goes on.
Here it is. It was that the double bird bomb combination that we were talking about, except Zachsy able to egg us it out. Same couldn't be said for DoctorL there. He ends up getting the entire brunt of that damage, and there's no way to avoid it.
No, at that point, it's just rough. A great cage, great bird bomb, and DoctorL and Zachsy both kind of just got the hands that time. But that happens occasionally. I'm sure they're going to be looking to try and return the favor here in game 2. Sounds like